Hey guys, it's been a few months since my last podcast episode, and many of you have been wondering what's going on with me and why I'm not posting new episodes. Well, I have started working on my second book, and I'm honestly unable to invest the enormous time and effort that I usually put into preparing for my podcast interviews. But don't worry, I have something else for you that I hope you will enjoy. Instead of my usual long form interviews, I have decided to start sharing the brief chapter outlines for the book that I'm currently working on. These episodes would be anywhere from roughly 5 to maybe 15 or 20 minutes at the most. And starting today, I hope to be publishing them every Monday. Since I will likely have somewhere between 15 or 20 chapters, it should take us about 5 months to complete. After we have all the recordings, I will evaluate where I am at with respect to the final book draft, as well as your ongoing critical feedback. Then I will decide what's the best way to proceed and if this book is worth pursuing further at all. Now, these podcast episodes will contain the gist of the foundational ideas I have for each chapter. They're not going to be the full or final version of my book, but something in between a rough first outline and an abbreviated manuscript. As I hope you will find out soon, given my past history and topics, this is a very tricky, ambitious, and perhaps even somewhat counterintuitive project. Some of you may like it, others may totally hate it. Of course, I hope that in time it will start making sense to you. But I may be wrong, so whether that turns out to be the case or not is up to you. Please feel free to let me know either way. Whatever the case may be, however, I have decided to make this creative process public and share it with anyone interested. This way, you get to have an intimate look into the direction I'm moving towards intellectually, as well as the ideas that I'm currently struggling with. Then I will hopefully get to have your critical feedback on my new book idea, as well as someone to hold me accountable and to motivate me to keep going when the writing gets rough, because this is my second attempt to do this project. I really hope you will find this process engaging, stimulating, and intellectually rewarding. But enough said. Let us begin. Rewriting the human story. How our story determines our future. I make no claim to predicting the future. I make up stories. Stories are better than predictions. Predictions tell us that the future is inevitable. Stories tell us that the future is up for grabs. Cory Doctorow. Foreword. It is harder and harder to make sense of life. Everything is changing all the time at a faster and faster pace. Our civilization is struggling to keep up with exponential technology and disruptive change. Our age-old institutions, politics, economics, ethics, religion, and laws, even our environment, are so fundamentally challenged that we risk collapse. Our stories have gotten so divorced from reality, so divisive, so inflexible, and so inept to adapt to and explain our present, let alone guide us towards a better future, that we often feel like helpless passengers on a Titanic, spaceship Earth. No wonder Aristotle observed that when the storytelling goes bad in a society, the result is decadence. But why is this the case? And perhaps more importantly, how is it that bad storytelling can keep, if not bring, a whole society down? Is that not simply overstating the power of story? Literary theorist Kenneth Burke famously noted, "Stories are equipment for living. Human beings need storytelling in order to make certain sense out of life. If that is true, then our equipment for living has gone obsolete. And unless we upgrade it, we are going to go obsolete too." It was this process that Fred Pollack had in mind back in 1961 while observing, "Any student of the rise and fall of cultures cannot fail to be impressed by the role played in this historical succession by the image of the future. The rise and the fall of images precede or accompany the rise and fall of cultures. As long as a society's image is positive and flourishing, the flower of culture is in full bloom. Once the image begins to decay and lose its vitality, however, the culture does not long survive." That is why we desperately need a new story. A story that will not only help us make sense of the world today, but also unite us as a species of human beings. A story that will motivate us to stop bickering and resolve our common problems. A story that will inspire us to achieve our common goals and guide us towards a better future for all sentient beings on our planet. We have to rewrite the story. The story, our story, the human story. Because the old stories that brought us thus far are no longer useful. They've lost their vision and grandeur. They've become petty and short-sighted. They're stuck in a past that never was, at the expense of a future that can be. They divide us and keep us bickering, while our civilization is facing unprecedented diversity and depth of existential challenges. Those stories are not simply our history. They're now our chains. And unless we break them, they will be our death sentence. So if it is true that old stories or bad stories can bring us down, then it is worth exploring if or how new stories, better stories, good stories can bring us up. The human story that brought us into this 21st century was written and rewritten several times. The latest major update was perhaps during the Industrial Revolution. It is time to rewrite it again. We need a new story, a brave story, an unreasonable story, a story that can inspire, unite, and motivate us to break free from the past and to create the best possible future. This is what this book is all about. It will examine how the current human story came to be, how it works, what's its impact and importance, and why we're currently witnessing it fall apart, politically, economically, philosophically, ecologically, and even socially. It will then argue that to survive and thrive in a world of exponential technology and disruptive change, we must rewrite our human story, individually, collectively, and globally. Finally, it will end by proposing a framework for, as well as several possible new versions of our current human story. Needless to say, this is a pretty ambitious goal. Thus, this thought experiment may fail because many of the ideas I will be putting here are not yet fully formed. Some are raw, others are probably wrong or bad. But as a guest on Singularity FM once said, big ideas are born bad. So I will not shy away from sharing my bad ideas with you. And hopefully, among the gravel and the dust, there might be some nuggets too. But you be the judge as per how big or how bad my ideas are. Either way, while I feel I'm not quite ready for this journey, it is a journey I must begin. Because whether I succeed or fail, I know I would be better for trying. Hopefully, you can benefit from it too. And if in the end there is enough good in this book to make a difference, to you, to the world, or to anyone at all, great. If not, then at least I can say I tried. Either way, thank you for coming along.